So I wanted to just take a moment to talk about Believe in Women. So this series is just a part of a larger initiative at Ironbow to really empower our women through awareness, through education, through important conversations like the one we're having today. So thank you guys for making the time to come out. I know it's a Friday, it's after hours, but this means a lot that we're all here together, so thank you guys. So I had to find the biggest index card I could for your intro, because your bio, your accomplishments, bear with me because...
You don't need to read it.
No, but no, we do. Sheila Johnson, right? She is a force. She has been a powerful influence in the entertainment industry as the co-founder of BET. She served as executive producer of documentary and feature films and is the founder and chair of the Middleburg Film Festival. She's the founder and CEO of Salamander, my favorite, hotels and resorts. She's the vice chairman of Monumental Sports and Entertainment. She is the only African-American woman to have ownership in 3 professional sports teams, the Capitals, the Wizards, and the Mystics. She served on the executive committee of the U.S. Golf Association, where she spearheaded efforts in increasing diversity in the sport. She's also led the formation of We Capital, a VC that supports and invests in female-led enterprises. She was recently inducted into Hospitality Design's Platinum Circle Hall of Fame and was named Washington Business Journal's 2022 CEO of the Year. I mean, come on. Come on. Amazing. Incredible. Incredible. First, how are you feeling? You just got off a jet. Are you feeling good?
I will tell you, as soon as I step through the door and I see all these incredible women walking in here, I am energized and empowered.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. To kick things off, I'd love if you could share a bit about your latest project, your book.
Right.
Walk Through Fire. We know it doesn't come out till September. I tried to get an advance. I was like, can I? But don't worry, I'm going to get that book. We want to know what made you want to write this book. What inspired you to write the memoir?
A lot of pressure from a lot of people.
Tell us.
Well, Walk Through Fire is really about my life. And people think that just because I'm sitting up here and I have team ownership and blah, blah, this and that, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, and I went through a lot of adversity. It's really interesting because Maureen Orth called, and she writes for Vanity Fair, and she had the galley, and she's like, oh my God, I could not put it down. But there's a lot in that story you're going to learn about me, and hopefully it will inspire you all to never give up in life, because I did not have it easy. And as I've given talks, and I was holding another book talk for someone else, and we were in the garden at Salamander Resort, and so they asked me about, you know, how did I build the resort and everything. So I gave them the long history. So Rita Braver from CBS came to me. She says, you're writing a book. And then her husband, Bob Barnett, who's now my agent, my legal agent, said, no, you're going to write this book. And I said, I don't really have time to write a book. And they said, no, your story has to be told. So it starts out, the central character in this book is really my mother. She's the one that has been by my side from the very beginning. And it started when I was 16 years old, and I found her on the floor of the kitchen. I was mopping floors at JCPenney back in Maywood, Illinois. And my father had literally left us. And he was a very well-known neurosurgeon. He's one of 8 African-American neurosurgeons in the country. Wow. And so back then, the thing that I want to stress, many of you do not realize that back in the 50s and 60s, women had very little rights. So for a man to just get up and leave, that puts you in poverty immediately. It's not that we were making a lot of money anyway, because he couldn't work in white hospitals, and he ended up working in the VA, but he just got up and left us. So she went in society from here to there, and it really affected her. And I think the thing that I realized then, she didn't have the inward strength of believing in herself to really not let this get her down. And when I found her on the floor, she was literally having a nervous breakdown. My brother was calling me as I came in the door. He said, something's happened to Mom, and she was foaming at the mouth and everything. So I had to call an ambulance to pick her up. I didn't know I had to pay for an ambulance. You know, they said, well, you know, you're going to have to give us $50 before we take her off. So I had to call my Aunt Mercedes, and anyway, we got, long story short, got her to the hospital. But it's the arc of the story is how I had to be the strength in the very beginning, and through all of my adversity, getting to the other end, she was my strength. And I'll never forget, after I went through a horrific divorce. It was very public, and it was real betrayal, you know. And we'll get to why women have to support other women. Yes. But anyway, I remember one day, I was like, Mom, I just don't know what to do with the rest of my life. You know, I'm in the third act of my life, which I'll explain too. And she had a cane, and she pushed it to the floor. She said, girl, it's time for you to get your power back now.
Oh my, yes.
And I went, whoa, she's serious. I thought she was going to hit me with the cane. But that's what the story's all about. There is a lot in there. I'm very open about what I went through with the divorce, the racial hoops that I had to jump through just to get the resort built out in Middleburg. I thought the divorce was bad. That was scary because my life was threatened.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was going through there. Everything's documented. I've had 2 legal teams double check all the papers. So everything that you read in there is the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah. I didn't exaggerate anything, but it was a scary time. And you know what? I think about it. I don't regret anything I went through. I'll never forget it. But it's given me more strength and more power than I could have ever imagined.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Who here wants to read that book? Right? Both hands? You know, and I love that you talk about your mother, because we recently held a panel for Women's History Month, and that was really the center of all of our strengths. When we talked about, we gave our own testimonials, it's the mother that really drives it.
And we as women, we always give our mother hell growing up in the teen years and everything. And then I think back, I should have been a lot nicer to her.
Yes.
But no, but mine was short-circuited. By 16, I was literally running a household.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, we will all be reading that book. So.
Okay.
So you have had a tremendous career, to say the least, and we know we can learn so much from you. What has been your most memorable experience as a female leader in the workplace?
The most memorable, and I thought about this coming in on the plane today, and something that will never leave me, is I was going through the fight of trying to get this resort up. You all do not realize, but it was a 10-year battle.
Wow.
This went on, and those of you older, probably, Lou, you probably read it in the Washington Post, of the hatred. I mean, it was horrific. And I remember I had held like a party up on the land that I had bought from late Pamela Harriman. And everyone showed up. They grazed through the food, and they seemed to be proud. And I remember Willard Scott showed up, and a senator showed up, and it just went on and on. The next morning, I was going to Dulles Airport. I had to go somewhere, and on both sides of the road were signs that said, "Don't be E.T. Middleburg."
Wow.
And I knew then that the fight was going to start. And I had to call my attorney. He called the sheriff's department because they shouldn't have been on the road. And from that point on, it was a nightmare.
Wow.
It was an absolute nightmare. I still have security on my farm.
Yeah.
We have doubled security at the resort because I don't know, this is a crazy time we're going through, and
really
I just
is.
don't trust people.
Yes. Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, but I didn't finish that.
Yeah. Please.
You were saying what had happened after 10 years of going through this and sitting through these hearings. And then the final votes were coming down from the Middleburg Town Council because I'd already passed through Loudon. I had done a boundary line adjustment to make sure that I could move the resort into the town. The town was bankrupt.
Okay.
And I knew that if I built this resort, it was going to be the economic anchor of the town.
Yes.
Plus, they didn't have a water sewage treatment plant that was really working.
Wow.
So I promised them $11 million to build this water sewage treatment plant. And everything that I promised them, I sat there and the votes were going down. Nay, nay, nay. And it came down to one more. And I won by only one vote.
Wow.
After all of that.
Wow.
And I remember people saying, Sheila, sit on your hands, do not react. But the tears just started flowing. It was just unbelievable.
That is unbelievable. Who has been to Middleburg? Raise your hand. You're
It's
talking
fun
about
now.
No, right, but you're talking about bankrupt to what it is today.
Right.
It is a destination.
It's a destination. We got wineries out there. We have retail. We have restaurants.
Yes.
It has been a game changer.
Yes.
And to this day now, the mayor has said, you have really changed this town.
Wow.
So I guess the lesson in all of this is you got to learn to take risks. And yeah, there's fear out there, but push through it.
Yes, yes.
You know, but I'm telling you, it was a scary town.
Wow.
And we're still going through these scary times. I'm telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a real issue.
It is, yes. So you have been very successful. You just talked about overcoming tremendous obstacles, right? And finding a way to leverage opportunities that historically have not been available for women, right? So you're in this powerful position now. How do you empower yourself and the women around you?
First of all, the women that are around me, I have unbelievable respect for. And I think that you need women to feed you.
Yep.
And I try to be an example as a leader. Leadership, do not ever underestimate it. You have got to be able to show them how you should behave in life.
Yes.
And give them the strength to be able to follow you, talk to them, embrace them. But that's how I do it. All of the women that work for me, and my chief of staff has been with me almost 20 years now.
Wow.
You've been having fun, right? But I like women working around me. And it's really important that we have got to start supporting one another.
Yes, yes.
And there are a lot of women out there that don't do it.
Yes, there are, yes.
And I'm telling you, in my book, you will read that too. But I am just saying, it is important that we have got to learn to respect one another and really be there for one another through thick and thin.
Absolutely, yep.
And I just want to go off on another tangent.
Yes, please.
That's the important, while you all are here supporting the Washington Mystics, what you're going to see down on that court is that kind of respect for one another. And I really do believe in team sports because it teaches women how to be supportive of one another.
Yes.
It gives them unbelievable courage to get out there to do what they need to do. They have a passion. You've got to really watch what's really going on the court and the support that they have one another. Because if you don't have that, we don't have a team.
Yep.
You know, locker room politics is really important.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, yep. How many of you have played team sports? Right? There are things you learn from the coach, from your peers, 100%.
And see, men have had this all their lives. And that's why you see them in the C-suites. They can beat each other up in a meeting, but they're out on the golf course or playing basketball or something, and they're the best of friends. We have got to learn to do that.
Yes.
We get a beef against one another. I ain't talking to her. You know, it's that kind of thing. No, leave it.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah.
Collaborate, communicate, and understand what is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. That's great. Great advice. So recognizing and finding ways to overcome the barriers that we talked about is so important to supporting this next generation of female leaders, right? So what advice do you have for women who want to work in a male-dominated field outside of being allies to each other?
Whatever profession you're going into, because I'm in a male-dominated field, believe me. In the hotel business, I'll go to a Forbes conference and everything, and you can count on one hand the women are there, and they're usually the assistants to the CEOs.
Yes.
Okay, I'm probably the only female owner of a hotel. I have 7 hotels now that, and I sit on the executive committee of the American Hotel Lodging Association and now Forbes, but I had to fight to get those positions because I had to show them over and over. I said, you have no diversity whatsoever. And talk about diversity, there's nobody of color. Okay?
Yep.
So that's the other thing that I had to break through. And there's a difference, and I'll go to like some of these meetings, and these men, they all know each other because they grew up in the business.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in the business.
Yeah.
And this will be another lesson. I'm in the 3rd act of my life, and I'll get to your question.
No, please. We love
I'm in the 3rd act of my life. You don't know, but I got a degree in music education and performance. I was a concert violinist.
Wow.
I did that from the moment I left the University of Illinois in 1970 until 1989. So when I was living in Washington, D.C., not only did I perform, but before I came to Washington, I played with the Chicago Civic Symphony. When I came to Washington, D.C., I was teaching music at Sidwell Friends. It was okay, but I really wanted, because they did not respect the music program. I lied to get the job. They wanted to know if I could play the guitar, and I'm like, sure. And so about 4 weeks in, I went to the headmaster and I said, I really want to start a string program. And I did that, and we started an orchestra. That orchestra became so famous that it represented the United States State Department Cultural Affairs. We were invited to the Jerash Festival in Amman, Jordan.
Wow.
And we went back there and played for all heads of state, King Hussein and Queen Noor.
That's incredible.
They would fly us over, bring us back.
Wow.
And I kept doing that, and I built a music conservatory in Amman, raised the money for it.
Wow.
And by that time, BET was also starting, so I'm moving into my 2nd act in life. So, but I had to keep a roof over our heads. And this is all in the book, and you'll see how I was such a good wife, and I supported. Anyway, I played it by the book, but anyway, you know, the bills had to be paid.
Yeah.
So I had to keep teaching, and I would be at BET half the time,
Wow.
trying to get it off the ground. And it was tough. So by 1989, I thought, now's the time to really get in there full time. So I started in there full time, and what was happening at BET, you know, we were struggling, trying to get advertisers to believe in an all-black network.
Okay.
So BET started during the time when all cable was invented. That's when CNN, TNT, you know, Turner, all of them, Nickelodeon. But there was nobody that was building a company that was going to, a cable company that was going to address the African American voice.
Wow.
That was left out. So we went to John Malone out in Denver, and he's been our guardian angel all the way to the sale of BET back to Viacom.
Wow.
And that's how we made our money.
Okay.
Never made money the entire time we were operating. But by the time, it's like having a sports team, right? Anyway, yeah, and that's how it all happened.
Wow.
What was your question?
We were talking about the single most significant barrier to female empowerment
Oh,
in the
yes,
workplace.
that's what it was. Anyway, the issue is then, I mean, BET was like 50-50 women and men. It was fine.
Okay.
But then trying to get into the 3rd act of my life in the hotel business, I didn't know anything about hotels. Why I wanted to do it was beyond my imagination, except when I was a concert violinist, I traveled all over the world, and I stayed in luxury hotels, the finest hotels, because I played with some really, like Yehudi Menuhin and Max Rostow, and some of these other people. And I would sit in these hotels, and I'm like, they're just amazing, really amazing. So when I decided to get in the business, I said, well, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to aspire to. I know what my vision is. So the one thing, I got so many lessons I can tell you all about.
Well, we have time, so
Okay.
we're here, you know.
So when I decided I was going to start the business, I don't want to give too much away in the book because I see daggers coming from my chief of staff.
Yeah, this is the circle of trust. We're okay.
Okay. Yeah. So no matter how much money I had, I knew I had a leg up in life, that I could do whatever I wanted to do.
There you go, yeah.
The reality hit, and I remember going to a bank, and I said, I want to make sure my money's protected, that it's invested well and everything. They never took me seriously. I pulled every penny out of that bank. I will not divulge the bank, and then moved it to another bank.
Good, that's great.
Because they didn't have respect for me, or they didn't believe me. I don't know what the problem was. So then after I did that, the other reality check that hit was that I couldn't get my own bank account. I had to have the ex sign off on that, whom I couldn't find at the time. Wow. I had to hire a law firm to even get my utilities changed. These are real things. These are the things that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had been fighting for. Credit cards. I was like my mother, and I was thinking, my mother went through this. Why am I going through this now?
Yeah, yeah.
But after weeks and weeks and weeks in threatening litigation, I finally got things done.
Yeah.
But why a woman would have to go through that is just beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to all of you, I don't care how much in love you are, you make sure you've protected yourself. I am not kidding you. Right, Lou? You have got to do that. You know, a man's a man, and a man will leave, and he'll do whatever he wants to do. But please make sure you take care of yourselves. You're number one, okay? I don't know how smart you have to do. Now, the one thing I did do, because I knew I was going to get a divorce. You'll read all about that in the book. I planned ahead of time, made sure I knew where every dollar was hidden. I knew where everything was, because I kept the books on everything. So I knew that part, and when I went to file for divorce, I did a lot of homework to find the best divorce lawyer. He did a Patha Murkison's divorce, and I'll never forget, I was watching the Academy, no, it was the Emmys, and I remember Patha Murkison saying, "Thank you, Sandy Ain, for helping me get through this divorce." I said, like, that's the same lawyer I have. I said, that's great. So then anyway, he says, well, you know, this is going to take some time. Get your records together. I said, I'll be back tomorrow. And I dropped everything down on the desk.
Incredible.
And got it done.
Yep.
But I had to do that because it was bad.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. What was your question again?
Well, we're talking about barriers to female empowerment. You've given us so many examples of barriers that you've pushed through.
You know what? Believe in yourself. If you want to be empowered, you have to first think of yourself. I mean, we can all help each other once we're doing that, but there's an insecurity with women that they've got to let go.
Okay.
But you got to be careful too. And I did realize that I had to set boundaries around people because even women that I thought were my friends, they were feeding off the fear and the betrayal that I was going through and would take it way up the road. Next thing I knew, the stories that or the way I had nobody that I could trust.
Yeah.
You know, no one. And I just didn't know what else to do. So the barriers are our barriers. We create those barriers, and you've got to stop that.
Okay, okay.
Okay?
I think it's I mean, have you ever been told you're resilient? Because that's a theme.
Yes.
Major resiliency here. Yeah.
But I've had to learn to be resilient.
Okay. Can I just say, you have filled our cups today. I mean, truly. So thank you. Thank you for this. Really.